This is an excerpt from The Weir by Conor McPherson. The Walshes lived in a house down around the way, about half a mile or so. And I met them because they moved in the year my father died, and they were moving in around the time of his funeral. So I met them then. And it was about 10 years ago this night that there was a knock around midnight at the door, and it was Mrs. Walsh. And she was very upset, saying that her husband was out of town, and could I come down, and there was some trouble, and could I help? And, well, what kind of trouble, I said. And she says she was after getting a phone call from her young one, Nema, who was after playing the, what do you call it now, the Ouija board. And she was after getting a spirit or this, and she was real scared, saying that it was after her, and she called her mother to come and collect her. And of course, I just thought this was a load of bollocks, you'll excuse the language, but here was the mother saying, like, she'd seen something too, like, on the way home, like a dog running on the road and running after the car. But, well, like, there's dogs all around here, the farmers have them. Oh, Jack, you remember that big one that Willie McDermott had? Oh, what was it, a wolfhound? Oh, it was like 4 feet at the shoulder. It was huge. And there's all kinds of dogs, but their bark would be worse than their bite. They'd be tame, like. So I wasn't too taken with this story. But Mrs. Walsh wanted me to come down the house because when they got back to the house, the young one, Nema, she was going hysterical, saying there was something on the stairs, like no one else could see it, but she could. And it was a woman looking at her, and Mrs. Walsh didn't know what to do. I mean, what made her think there was anything I could do, I don't know, but she was panicking, so we got in the car and we went down, and, well, when we got there, I'd never seen the like of it. Like the young one, she was in bits. They had a blanket wrapped around her, and she was white as snow, and she wouldn't come out of the kitchen because she said there was a woman on the stairs, and I said, well, what's the woman doing? And she says, well, she's just looking at me. Oh, and she was terrified. Now, I didn't know if she was after taking drink or drugs or what she was after doing. So I got on the phone with Dr. Joe and Carrick and asked them to come down. And that was when Nema started screaming at me to close the door because I was out in the hall where the phone was. And she said she could see the old woman looking at her from over the banister, like she was that bad now. So Mrs. Walsh got on the phone and got called the priest, Father Joe. And fair dues, he got out of bed and came down and sort of blessed the place a little, And then the doctor arrived and gave Nema a sedative, and she was off then. And Mrs. Walsh was obviously shaken, and so we had a little drink and all to calm her down. Well, and then the phone rang, right? And it was the young fella back in Longford where Nema and her friends were playing, and he was all this, well, his baby was crying, and it was out of the crib, and he was looking out the window across the street, and there was a commotion in the driveway, cars in the drive and all. And it turns out that the old one who lived next door, who used to mind Nema and her sisters, had died. She'd fallen down the stairs, and they found her that way. And all right, whatever coincidence, but that night when I got home, I was sitting by the fire and having a last smoke, watching the fire before going to the sack. And well, Jack, you'd remember the house. When you're facing the fire, the stairs are behind you. And it's stupid now, but, well, at that time, I couldn't turn around. I thought there was something on the stairs. I was like a little boy, the way, and I was dying for another smoke, and I wouldn't dare light one. I wouldn't dare move, lest something would see me. And I just sat there, looking at an empty fireplace. And I sat there until it got bright. Of course, when the light in the morning came, I was grand. There was nothing there, obviously, but that was the last smoke I had. Yep.